Alright, well we've got a couple of sheaths to make today, so I found the appropriate patterns out of the box of the various patterns I have for each of the knives, so I'll put that away and get them sorted out on this sheet of it's 3.2mm. Now we've got a brand on the leather there, and this one is to be left-handed, so we turn the pattern over and we can draw that on. Now we'll put those aside for a second and we'll cut these out. And always start with a sharp knife. Now we'll also need a couple of strips for the welt, so we take that off the square end of the sheet. And again we start by taking a cut along there and easing the end of it so the strap cut will fit in there. And we'll cut a second one. Now I'll get these ones done. We can put that one away and we'll get some slightly lighter leather. We'll go to 2.5mm for the belt loop. Get the pattern for that. Now, because we've got a honing steel to go on one of the sheaths, and I've cut some strips here, so we'll use one of those, and the honing steel is here, and we want 3.5 inches. I might just go 4. So we need to prick some holes in these now to get our various stitching holes. It's not that one, it's this one here. And because this is going to have a bit of edge stamping on it, we'll just shift that over fractionally, and then we turn it over and we mark the centre on the back, and we come down 1.5 inches, mark a line there, and we take 2 grooving cuts down the back of there. And that allows it to fold over more neatly when we're doing the sewing of it together. Now, so this one's a left-handed, so we have it the opposite way around. And again, we'll put some stamping on this one. Now we want to describe a border around there to get our stamp line up properly. Now we're done with those, and we'll cut these while I'm at it. Now I'm marking there about 1/4 inch, so we've got our drain hole. That always allow extra so I don't get glue on my hand when I'm I'm doing that. Now, a lot of people make the mistake of cutting the exact shape for the welt, but it's certainly not necessary as this leather is very pliable. So I'll put that aside, I'll turn these over and I'll get some water. I'll just backtrack here a little bit because I had forgotten that was a honing steel in this one. So what I do is I wrap that in cling film and then measure from the base of the ring up to the top of the sheath, put a mark there, the length of the honing steel sheath, and so we come around with our welt to that point there, mark it, square it off, and then that piece there will fit the top, so we can use that other piece that we'd cut for another sheath another time. So having done that, we can now look at getting some stamping done. So I've got a wee bit of water in that there. Just a simple mark around there like that, and I always come over the top first. So we'll put that one aside and we'll do this other one. So now it's time to get a bit of dye onto these. So we just dip these ones. And there's another one of these here. We don't do those ones. Now on the back, I stay away from where we're going to glue the welt on, and I only go down about halfway because it's not seen inside the sheath after that, and it just makes it look even with the outside instead of having the different colours. So next we'll drill a few holes and get those all sorted. So we'll start sewing these belt loops on. Now I've grooved the back of the leather so that the knife is much less likely to slice the stitching when it's being returned to the sheath. So we've got our needle threaded, so we'll turn around and we'll get some stitching done. Right, so with a threaded needle we can start on the stitching the belt loop on. And so if I go through the second hole and come back up through the first one, I leave a tag of thread out that I can use to tie off when I'm finished. So now we'll go back through the second one again, and then we can sort it out as far as making sure everything's lined up. Then it's a simple case of running your stitching through. I'll wait till I get to the end of the bottom row before I tighten that up. And then we just go around the rest of the stitching and come back. So it's not done as a saddle stitch, it's still double stitched. But this just makes it a more economical way to do the work, which is just as secure. So that's right round, and now we can go back around doing the second locking stitch. And because this is a waxed thread, it holds itself. Once you've given it a little tighten up, that seems to hold itself very well. And of course, when everything is hot waxed later on, it locks everything in. And so when we come back out the end hole again, we now have that tag that we can tighten up with the pliers, and we can tie that off, and it's underneath the actual leather. And that is never going to come undone. So we cut that off now. Then I can give that a light fold like that. I can see where the half of the sheath is, so I can fold that over, and now I can mark that there, and we'll drill those holes, we'll groove the back of it, and we'll get the bottom part of the loop sewn on. So with the belt loops sewn on, we can get some the welts glued up and in place now. Now this is a very old-fashioned kitchen knife that I've put a new handle on and reshaped, because it's just the right width for with a glue line down there. Now this will be the holder for the wee honing steel, so we'll give that a good glue there, and then we can set it all side to side to dry for 5 minutes. So we can set that aside now for 5 minutes, and we'll come back to it when that's dry. Now with the wee honing steel, what we've done is we've wrapped that in a bit of cling film, and so we pull that over and get that very tight around there, because when we take the cling film off, that will be enough to give it some freedom to move in and out without being too free that it'll fall out. Now the next thing that we need to do is to get some glue on here so that it'll glue into where it needs to go on there. So we need glue on both sides of that. Right, so we can just set that aside there. Now that'll keep it from getting stuck to anything in the time that it takes to dry. So we can set that now. Right, so we can get these in place now. So we know where we started with this one was at the right place down at the base, and that in turn gives the correct positioning for this up here, and still giving us the right place at the top. Now we can take that out, and that piece fits in there, and that's why I use the 1.5 mil for this little holder there, because 2 pieces of that equals the 3 and a bit mil for the standard welt. So that's that one around there, and you can see these, just the strips of leather rather than a shaped welt, is easily put in the correct place. Cut the top off, and now we can glue the other side of that so that we're ready to put them together. So that can sit again for 5 minutes and then we're ready for final assembly of it. So when it comes to the stitching up, I've through practice learned how much thread I need so that I don't waste it, and so I've got some tape marks on the edge of the bench here, and that's one. And that's two. And what is often left on them is just enough to do the start of the next sheath for the one of the belt loops. So of course this is the double needle thread saddle stitch, so you go through the eye and then through the end of the thread, and that holds that nice and secure. So we'll thread the other pair of needles and then they're all set just for a continuation of sewing. Right, so we'll set up around here for the sewing. So this handy little stitching pony is just the thing to keep everything nice and tight. So I go through the top row of holes twice, so I've got double stitch on the top just for that little bit of added security. Now we can snug that up and then head on into our, I'll just tighten that up a wee bit, head into our stitching. It's a fairly simple process. I like to snug it every pair of stitches. So that's the last set of holes. Now just go back up a few sets of holes just to lock all that stitching in place. And now it's where it gets a wee bit tougher to get the needle through, so we have a wee helper here, it's not so hard on the fingers. And always finish on the back of the sheath and give that a tighten up. So it just shows you how strong that thread is. You can give it a very, very firm pull with the pliers and it doesn't break it. So that's one done. All we've got to do is run the slicker down there now, and it's all set for hot waxing. So that's these two done. That'll sit in there. We'll go and get them hot waxed, and what I always do is just see where we're going to come to, put my thumb there and know where I've got to come into, and then start the boning process. That'll be finished when we do the hot wax, and that'll fit in there nice and tight at the moment, but it'll free up when we get the heat on it. So that and a few more we did off screen, and we're all set. The only thing I didn't show you was putting my maker's mark on the back and reinforcing those 3 little pin pricks with the little stamp I do for my maker's mark on the front. So we'll go and get those hot waxed.